Thank you. Please be seated. We hold this ceremony today to welcome Magistrates Mark Schofield, Lewis Shillito, Kellie Walker, Lisa O'Neill, Anna Smith, and Jakub Lodziak as members of the Magistrates Court of Queensland. All 6 magistrates were sworn in on Monday, the 6th of September, 2024. The Magistrates Court of Queensland has a close and valued relationship with the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Island communities throughout Queensland. And I would like to respectfully acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land where we meet today, the Turrbal and Yagara peoples, and pay my respects to the elders, past, present, and emerging. We are honoured to have here today the Chief Justice of Queensland, the Honourable Helen Boskill, the President of the Court of Appeal, the Honourable Deborah Mullins, Chief Judge Brian Devereux, Justices Peter Davis and Soraya Ryan, President Stilgo, and other serving and retired judicial officers of the state courts and tribunals. We have Assistant Minister Jimmy Sullivan and other members of the profession, representatives of various governments, departments and agencies. The ceremony is also being live streamed via YouTube link to courts across Queensland. Many apologies have been received today from present and former judicial officers who cannot be with us today. And I note particularly the apologies of Justices Boudice, Brown, Dalton, Martin, Callaghan, Crowe, Freeburn, Muir, North, Sullivan, Treston and Wilson, from the President of the Queensland Civil and Administrative Tribunal, Justice Mellifont, from retired Judge and former Chief Magistrate Ray Renato, and also former Chief Magistrate Judge Terry Gardner, and the State Coroner Ryan. At the bar table, I acknowledge the Honourable Yvette Darth, MP, Attorney General, Minister for Justice and Minister for the Prevention of Domestic and Family Violence, Mr Damien O'Brien, KC, President of the Bar Association of Queensland, and Ms Rebecca Fogarty, President of Queensland Law Society. Most importantly of all, I welcome to the court the family and friends of our new magistrates. We have with us Magistrate Schofield's wife, Jasmine. Oh, I'm sorry, Magistrate Schofield's wife, Liz. That's right. And children, Sam and Ivy. Magistrate Shillito's wife, Jasmine. Children, Angus and Remy, and sister Sophia. Magistrate Walker's parents, Lloyd and Kerry. Magistrates O'Neill's daughter, Lucinda, her sister Stacey and brother-in-law Richard. Magistrate Smith's husband, Justin. Children, Abigail, Edward and Lucinda. And Magistrate Lodziak's wife, Holly, and children, Lily and Harry. We welcome you all, distinguished guests, family, friends, former colleagues of our new magistrates and members of the public. It is an exciting and challenging time to be joining the Magistrates Court. There has been significant legislative reform in the past 2 years, and more soon to commence in the domestic and family violence jurisdiction, children's court and the general criminal jurisdiction. All these reforms will have significant impact on the nature, volume and complexity of matters before the court. The impact of these reforms has been recognised by government, and 4 of the 6 new appointments are additional full-time magistrates. Magistrate Schofield takes up the additional appointment in Mount Isa. He will join Magistrate Holohan, and they will then take on responsibility for the golf circuit, which includes Normanton, Doomadgee, Burketown and Mornington Island, which previously was undertaken by magistrates from Brisbane. And in fact, Brisbane originally took that circuit from Townsville to give relief to that very busy court. This will then add to Mount Isa's existing fairly extensive circuiting responsibilities, going also to Camberwell and Julia Creek, Cloncurry, Dejara, Boulia and Birdsville. And I've done the golf circuit twice in 12 months, and I'm very pleased that the additional appointment will allow both a rearrangement of that circuit with the opportunity to give more court time to remote communities so that all parties, including victims of crime and our community justice groups, will have sufficient time to meaningfully participate in court proceedings and the community can attend and watch the administration of justice. Magistrates Shillito and O'Neill take up additional appointments in Brisbane, and those new appointments are timely as we can then trial new lists in Brisbane in 2025, a new DNA call-over list, a fast-track sexual offences list, and a domestic violence summary offences list. And those new lists are part of a continued effort to provide timely resolution of serious matters where delay can have a detrimental effect on all the parties involved. Magistrate Lodziak's position in Cairns was created by the transfer of Magistrate Cathy Ann McLennan from Cairns to the newly created position in Townsville. And again, the additional resources in Townsville are very welcome and will improve the ability to deliver justice in Townsville, in Ayr, in Ingham, and also Palm Island. I take the opportunity to thank the Honourable the Attorney General for those appointments and her understanding of the complexity of the work of this court and also the challenges of the delivery of justice across this vast state. The new magistrates are then very welcome. I will tell you briefly about the key skills and experience that they will bring to this court. Magistrate Schofield has been an acting magistrate since April this year. Immediately prior to that, he was the Assistant Director of Criminal Law Services at Legal Aid Queensland for 8 years. And many of you will know him in the role because he coordinated and provided duty lawyer services across the Magistrates Court throughout Southeast Queensland. He brings to the court over 20 years experience and expertise in the criminal law. And as I mentioned, he will take up his appointment in Mount Isa. Magistrate Shillito is also a familiar face in this court. He brings extensive experience and expertise in the criminal law jurisdiction, and he's represented Indigenous defendants in Tasmania, the Northern Territory, and for the past 7 years has been the Director of Criminal Law at the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Legal Service. His first appointment is to Brisbane. Magistrate Walker comes to the bench from Cairns, far north Queensland, where she was the acting senior principal lawyer at Legal Aid Queensland, managing a team of 17 lawyers and 15 administrative staff before her appointment. She's represented defendants in complex matters before the Supreme District Children's Court of Queensland and, of course, the Magistrates Court. As these roles indicate, her honour brings extensive regional experience in core areas of the court's jurisdiction, and her appointment is to Cairns. Magistrate O'Neill is well known to the judiciary and the profession through the Lighthouse Project, which was an innovative specialist response to family violence in the family law courts. It was a project she researched, conceptualised and developed with the judges of the Federal Circuit and Family Court of Australia. She was a senior judicial registrar of that court and a former consultant in family law whilst in private practice and a former independent children's lawyer. Her Honour brings to the bench over 30 years' experience in family law, domestic violence and child protection. She has also had experience as an acting magistrate in this court. Her Honour's first appointment is to Brisbane and then to Southport for 1 year. Magistrate Smith comes to the bench as a former acting magistrate since December of 2023. Prior to that, she was the director and principal lawyer of the Sunshine Coast firm, Smith Criminal Lawyers. Her Honour's career has included working as a senior legal officer for the Crime and Misconduct Commission, a Crown prosecutor with the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions, a barrister and child protection lawyer. She brings 23 years of experience in a broad range of jurisdictions. Magistrate Lodziak was, prior to his appointment, the acting public defender. His Honour began his career at Legal Aid Queensland as a solicitor within the criminal law section. He joined the Public Defender Chambers in 2009. His appointment as a member of the Queensland Sentencing Advisory Council in June this year is a testament to the strength of His Honour's knowledge and experience in the criminal law jurisdiction. His first appointment is to Southport until December and then to Cairns for 2 years. For the moment, I invite you all with me, with the Deputy Chief Magistrates and the Magistrates, to warmly welcome Magistrates Schofield, Shillito, Walker, O'Neill, Smith and Lodziak to our court. I now invite the Honourable the Attorney General to say a few words.
May it please the Court. I start by acknowledging the traditional owners and custodians of the lands in which we meet, Meanjin, and pay my respects to the elders past, present and emerging, and in doing so recognise their cultures, their history and diversity and their deep connections to the lands and seas of Queensland and the Torres Strait. I'd like to particularly extend this respect to any elders and Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people joining us here today. I'd like to acknowledge Your Honour Judge Janelle Brassington, Chief Magistrate, the Honourable Chief Justice Helen Boskill, all members of the Judiciary, both current and retired, Mr Damien O'Brien, KC, President of the Bar Association Queensland, Ms Rebecca Fogarty, President of the Queensland Law Society, members of the profession, and last but not least, I would like to extend a warm welcome to the family and friends of our new magistrates. It is always a great pleasure to attend these welcome ceremonies, and today is extra special considering we have 6 new faces to welcome to the bench. A very big congratulations to Magistrates Jakub Lodziak, Mark Schofield, Kellie Walker, Lisa O'Neill, Anna Smith and Lewis Shillito on your appointments. It is a testament to the reputation of Legal Aid Queensland that 3 of our new magistrates have honed their skills within that office. Magistrate Lodziak, you're a highly respected barrister with a long history at Legal Aid Queensland, where you worked for 19 years, both as a solicitor and a barrister. Most recently, you have been leading the council chambers as acting public defender. In 2021, Legal Aid Queensland presented you with an Outstanding Achievement Award for your tireless work providing the highest quality representation to disadvantaged clients in many complex and difficult trials and sentences. The award also recognised that you provided mentoring to junior counsel and solicitors, ensuring clients received the best possible representation. You have advocated for Legal Aid's position in submissions on legislative amendments and procedural changes. You've also contributed as a member of the Queensland Sentencing Advisory Council. Your Honour has a reputation for exceptional written advocacy and undeniable professionalism. And on a less serious note, I understand that you also have a panache for KFC and Roxette. Magistrate Schofield, before being appointed as an acting magistrate, you were the Assistant Director of Criminal Law Services at Legal Aid Queensland for 8 years, having worked your way through the ranks since joining the office in 2002. You developed and implemented a new system that simplified the grant of aid process for vulnerable clients, enhancing access to justice and streamlining court processes for all stakeholders. Your Honour also instigated and successfully managed a joint initiative with the Queensland Police Service to allow disclosure of material through an online portal. This has created impressive efficiencies for lawyers and courts alike. You also played an important role in your tenure as senior principal lawyer based at Southport, where you represented Legal Aid Queensland in the implementation of the state's first domestic and family violence court. You have a reputation for being both pragmatic and matter of fact. I am also reliably informed that you also have your reputation for honing your cricket skills down the office corridor. He was hoping that Your Honour takes up outdoor cricket in Mount Isa. Magistrate Walker, you have always impressed your peers with your knowledge and work ethic. You were originally admitted in New Zealand in 2008, having graduated from the University of Otago in 2007. When you first came to Legal Aid Queensland, you worked in the drug court team, where you quickly built rapport with clients, always showing compassion and understanding. Most recently, Your Honour has led the office in Cairns as senior principal lawyer, where you managed a team of 32 lawyers and administrative staff. Your sources tell me that you have been very influential in the Cairns legal community. Indeed, you have been described as the go-to expert for youth justice matters in particular. Your reputation within the legal profession speaks for itself. Earlier this year, you were elected by your peers as the Vice President of the North Queensland Law Association. You have also been a representative and mentor for the Women Lawyers Association of Queensland, and in 2020, you were awarded Queensland Regional Practitioner of the Year. You have been described as consistently kind and an inclusive leader. Indeed, your community spirit is well known at Legal Aid Queensland, and I'm told that on one occasion you held a birthday party for all of the dogs in the office. It was on this occasion that I understand one of the new lawyers at Legal Aid unwittingly ate a dog biscuit. Magistrate O'Neill, you have enjoyed well-rounded careers since your admission in 1988. You began working in medium-sized private law firms, conducted hearings as a senior case officer in a child support agency, heard and resolved prisoner complaints with the former Department of Corrections, conducted procedural and final hearings in teacher disciplinary matters, and sat as a sessional member of the Queensland Civil and Administrative Tribunal. Your Honour was also a senior principal lawyer with Crown Law, and for the past 4 years, Your Honour occupied the role of senior judicial registrar with the Family and Federal Circuit Courts of Australia. During your time there, you have researched and conceptualised and developed the Lighthouse Project, as we've heard, an innovative specialist response to family violence in the family courts. Funded for 3 years, the project involved risk screening, triage and specialist listing, and you were keenly sought as a speaker about the Lighthouse Project and general responses to domestic and family violence at national and state conferences. Your Honour has also been a sessional lecturer in ethics at USQ and chaired the Professional Standards Board for patent and trademark attorneys for the maximum 6 years. And you'll be pleased to know I haven't been able to get any gossip on you. Magistrate Smith, you have spent more than 23 years practising law in both prosecution and defence, in domestic violence, quasi-criminal and family law matters. You've always displayed a commitment of integrity, fairness and impartiality, while possessing a sharp analytical mind with the ability to exercise sound judgment in demanding situations. Your Honour is well practised in communicating with youths, people with drug misuse and mental health issues, and those with diverse backgrounds and cultures. You have a reputation for being patient, with strong listening skills, talents that will no doubt hold you in good stead on the bench. You began your career as a solicitor advocate in the New South Wales Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions, where you spent 6 years, interspersed with a 6-month stint as a child protection lawyer in the United Kingdom. You saw the light and moved north in 2005, taking up position at the then Crime and Misconduct Commission before becoming a Crown prosecutor with the Queensland Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions. Most recently, Your Honour was Director and Principal at Smith Criminal Law before being appointed as an acting magistrate last December. Magistrate Shillito, you graduated with honours from the University of Tasmania in 2006 and were admitted as a legal practitioner in the Supreme Court of Tasmania in 2007. Your Honour began a well-travelled path as a criminal law solicitor with the Northern Australian Aboriginal Justice Agency in the Northern Territory before becoming a prosecutor with the Queensland Police Service. You were called to the bar in 2011. You joined the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Legal Service, where you later became the Director of Criminal Law. Your Honour has been most active with your involvement in voluntary professional pursuits. For the past 8 years, you have been a member of the Queensland Children's Court Committee, an associate member of the Queensland Law Society's Criminal Law and Access to Justice Committees. You have been a consultative forum member to the Queensland Sentencing Advisory Council, For the past 5 years, you volunteered with Caxton Legal Centre for 4 years, and you have been a member of the Australian Lawyers for Human Rights since 2005. I'm acutely aware of the significant workload undertaken by the magistracy in Queensland and hold the greatest respect for the dedication, passion and professionalism displayed by every one of our magistrates around the state. The work is complex, constantly evolving and at times relentless, but it is always undertaken with a minimum of fuss and maximum care. Queensland's legal profession is second to none, and the latest appointees were all outstanding candidates for the respective positions. In my last swearing-in ceremony as Attorney General, and I say I heartily congratulate each of the 6 new magistrates on your appointments and wish you well for your long and fulfilling tenures as you serve the people of Queensland. May it please the Court.
Thank you, Attorney General. Mr O'Brien.
It gives me great pleasure to speak on behalf of the Bar Association Queensland and the Barristers of Queensland to congratulate you, Magistrate Schofield, Magistrate Lodziak, Magistrate Shillito, Magistrate Smith, Magistrate Walker and Magistrate O'Neill on your appointment to this court. I would like to extend a particular welcome to your immediate and extended families who join us here today. They should be extremely proud of your careers today and the appointments to this court. Magistrate Schofield, this setting is not unfamiliar to Your Honour, having spent the last 5 months as an acting magistrate, residing in courts across this state and putting to use the skills that you've gained through your 22 years as a barrister with legal aid. You spent your entire career with legal aid from your first call to the bar in 2002 until your appointment, rising to the role of Assistant Director of Criminal Law Services in that time. Among your achievements at legal aid, you developed and implemented a new system of grants for aid, managed a joint initiative between legal aid, the Queensland Policy Service to allow disclosure of QP9 material online, and implemented the first domestic and family violence specialist court in Southport, measures which improved considerably the efficiency of court processes and allowed greater access to justice. Magistrate Lodziak, you also joined the court from the Office of Legal Aid, and like Magistrate Schofield, your entire career has been spent with legal aid, first joining the office in its graduate lawyer program in 2005 and working as a solicitor until being called to the bar in 2009. As counsel, you joined the Public Defenders Chambers, where you were a valued member until your appointment, and where you rose to become an acting public defender in April of this year, following the appointment of Judge Pascalo, KC. While the members of those chambers are loath to lose a valued colleague, they are rightly proud to have another colleague of theirs deserving of a judicial appointment. In the Public Defenders Chambers, you had a reputation for being a hardworking and thoughtful, and you were a sought-after counsel for complex matters, including murder trials. You've appeared in many trials, appeals and special leave applications before the High Court of Australia. And in 2021, you were recognised for your tireless work to provide top-quality representation to disadvantaged clients in many complex and difficult trials and sentences, and for mentoring the lawyers of the next generation. Magistrate Shillito, Your Honour joins the court from the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Legal Service, where you've been a Director of Criminal Law, and since 2016, you were first called to the bar in 2011. Your entire time as counsel was spent with the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Legal Service, aside from a secondment to the Tasmanian Aboriginal Legal Service, where you spent a year as a senior criminal lawyer and then acting principal lawyer in your home state. As well as your work with Atlas, Your Honour has been involved in a number of public consultations and given feedback on the operation of the criminal law in various courts through your membership of the Queensland Children's Court Committee, the Youth Justice Stakeholder Advisory Group, the Queensland Sentencing Advisory Council, and the Streamlining Criminal Justice Initiative. Magistrate Walker, you also joined the court after more than a decade at legal aid, where since December of last year, you've been the senior principal lawyer at the Cairns office, managing 32 staff with matters across a wide variety of areas, criminal, family and civil law. After first being admitted in New Zealand, you practiced as a solicitor for 3 years before joining Legal Aid Queensland in 2011. And since joining Legal Aid, there is no doubt that you would have represented clients in every aspect of criminal law within the jurisdiction. You've particularly developed an expertise and are known for your expertise in youth justice matters. You are known widely as an enthusiastic and compassionate lawyer with a real passion for the interests of your clients. In 2020, the Law Society named you the Queensland Regional Practitioner of the Year, and you became Vice President of the North Queensland Law Association. The community in Cairns will be well served by a magistrate with connection to the committee, with a deep working knowledge of the court and experience with the matters that it sees. Magistrate O'Neill, you bring to this court an impressive resume of successful reforms instituted in previous roles with the Federal Circuit and Family Court of Australia. You were most recently the Senior Judicial Registrar in that court, hearing and determining interim parenting applications where a high risk of family violence was present. Your Honour's career has been varied, working in various roles in private practice, with Legal Aid on more than one occasion, the Child Support Agency, the Department of Corrections, QCAT, Crown Law, the University of Queensland, the Professional Standards Board, the Patent and Trademark Attorneys, the Department of Justice and Attorney General, and most recently on the Federal Circuit and Family Court. As disparate as those roles might appear, common among all of them has been Your Honour's commitment to improving services that benefit the public and the protection of children. Most notably, and it has been mentioned, among Your Honour's many achievements has been your work with the Lighthouse Project, a specialist program in the family court which screens parties for risks such as family violence, risk to children, mental health and substance abuse issues, which then can be triaged and placed into specialist lists if necessary. The Lighthouse Project has completely changed the landscape of family law, as among its many benefits, it gives parties the ability to gather timely information from state agencies such as police, child safety and Queensland Health. Your Honour designed and implemented that project, which has been continuously improved upon, and you hold the deep respect and admiration of the family law practitioners of this state as a result. We're glad to see that Your Honour has chosen to take up the call to public service once more and accepted this role to this court. Magistrate Smith, you've been a member of this court as an acting magistrate since October 2023. And while you are known to the bar from your years as a barrister, the majority of your career to date has been spent with the solicitor's arm of the profession. The first part spent in prosecutions, including New South Wales, DPP, the Greenwich Local Authority in the United Kingdom, the Crime and Misconduct Commission in Queensland, and then the Queensland DPP, where you became a Crown Prosecutor. From 2009, you spent 3 years as Defence Counsel at the Queensland Criminal Bar, appearing in a wide variety of trials in the District and Supreme Court. In 2012, you established the Smith Criminal Law Practice, a specialist criminal defence firm in Maroochydore, and which you were the principal of until you were appointed an acting magistrate. Your experience in criminal law as an advocate in both prosecution and defence, and the time you've already spent in the service of the community as an acting magistrate will stand you in good stead to serve the communities of Bowen and Southport, who will be thankful to have another experienced criminal law practitioner at the bench. The community is well served by magistrates who are highly experienced in the area of the law that the court hears most, who are part of the communities they serve and have demonstrated a record of leadership, excellence and ability. These appointments are fine examples of all these qualities. And on behalf of the Bar Association, we would particularly like to thank the opportunity, conscious that it is the last time that the Attorney General will be at one of these ceremonies, to thank the Attorney General publicly for her efforts in the appointments to all courts in this state, including these most recent 6 appointments. Magistrate Schofield, Lodziak, Shillito, Walker, O'Neill and Smith, on behalf of the barristers of Queensland, we congratulate you on your appointments. We assure you of our ongoing support and we wish you all the best for life on the bench. May it please the court.
Thank you, Mr. O'Brien. Ms. Fogarty.
May it please the court. I acknowledge the Yagara and Turrbal people, the traditional owners of our meeting place, Meanjin. I acknowledge elders and youth in whose hands held our hopes for a reconciled and better future. Today is a joyful occasion to celebrate, on behalf of Queensland solicitors, 6 very deserving additions to the Magistrates Court bench. Good law can only exist when we have good lawyers and experienced judicial officers who understand, to repurpose a well-worn phrase by former United States Justice Earl Warren, that it is the spirit and not the form of the law that keeps justice alive. This concept is given practical meaning in the Magistrates Court. That is because this court, in a fundamental and compelling way, is the community's court. It is this court which sits at the apex of our community's response to domestic violence. It is this court, through specialist services such as the Murray Court and CourtLink, that engages with local communities at a direct level to address local problems. It is this court which serves areas of startling geographic and cultural diversity, which has a unique role in repairing some of the tears and tears in our communities. Each of you appointed today are deeply worthy and capable of this precious task of keeping justice alive. Magistrate Schofield, your long-standing career, or perhaps vocation is a better word, with Legal Aid Queensland is commendable in and of itself. Without legal aid and without talented, dedicated lawyers like you who believe in the cause, the concept of access to justice has little meaning. At Legal Aid, Your Honour did not just provide legal representation. You actively sought to repair harm and strengthen relationships as you shepherded some of our community's most traumatised and vulnerable through the criminal justice system. Whilst we are sure you will dispense justice with aplomb and your usual wisdom as a magistrate, we also understand that you are skilled at picking American Super Bowl football winners. It has been speculated that your support of the Kansas City Chiefs has been motivated more by a devotion to Taylor Swift as opposed to the Chiefs' gaming strategy. In any event, Your Honour will need to give serious consideration as to who will act as second-string quarterback to ensure that the operation of the Mount Isa Courthouse will continue on 9 February 2025, the anticipated date of next year's Super Bowl. Magistrate Shillito, Your Honour brings a depth of criminal law experience to your new role. You have been extraordinarily generous in your contributions to the Law Society over many years. You unswervingly used every opportunity through your time on the Criminal Law Committee to highlight the ways in which Indigenous clients of ATSLs were systematically adversely impacted by the criminal justice system. It is your long-standing commitment to fearless, thankless, tireless advocacy that means in Your Honour's courtroom, justice will always be alive and humane and relevant to the community you serve. On a personal note, I've always appreciated Your Honour's humility and kindness. You are exceptionally suited to your new role. Magistrate Walker, you are a highly respected practitioner in North Queensland. You are embedded within your local profession, and your ascension serves to demonstrate that you are instrumental to the cause of justice in your community. During Your Honour's tenure as principal lawyer at Legal Aid Cairns, you were seen by your peers as hardworking, passionate, and an exceptional colleague, always willing to assist others in solving complex legal issues. Your skilled advocacy on access to justice issues set you apart. The Society will very much miss the benefit of your wisdom through your time on the Children's Law Committee. You have so generously given of your time and contributed to our advocacy for good law. On a personal note, I have it on good authority that your Legal Aid Cairns colleagues desperately miss your good humour and levity. However, expect to see you in the office soon when you come to collect the blazer that you have inadvertently left behind. Magistrate O'Neill, you embody the concept that through participation and engagement, we strengthen communities and we strengthen justice. Many colleagues describe you as a shining star, across a portfolio career of valuable work. There is the work described through the Lighthouse Project, and your innovative approach and tendency to be ahead of the curve was displayed early when you travelled to Boulder, Colorado, to learn about mediation long before it was mainstream. A common thread across your career has been your particular interests in domestic violence and protecting children. Most recently, your intelligence, skill and wisdom in these areas were benefited through your role as a thought leader with the Lighthouse Project. This has transformed the experience of vulnerable parties coming to court. You are also known for your broad interests and talents outside of the law, not least being the proud mother to Lulu. I know that the last 2 years have not been easy for you and Lulu, but what an example you have set for lawyers, for women. Your work, your contributions have truly made a difference to families, to children, to our community. To quote an old folk song, justice is a constant struggle, but we struggle on. We salute you for your continued commitment to the struggle for justice. Magistrate Smith, you are well respected among your colleagues. Your CV is weighty, replete with extensive experience in criminal law. Your time as a solicitor, managing files, managing clients, managing deadlines, is the perfect training ground for work in our busy and vital regional courts. In addition, Your Honour has a depth of knowledge spanning across Commonwealth and state criminal laws, evidence law, traffic law, domestic violence. And this, together with your well-deserved reputation for an extraordinary work ethic, means that justice will be dispensed efficiently, swiftly and fairly in your local community. Magistrate Lodziak, you bring a wealth of experience. You enjoyed a fruitful career at Legal Aid. This is demonstrative of your deep knowledge of criminal law. Your colleagues have commented on your professionalism, commitment and strong work ethic. Your manner in court and ability to develop rapport with your clients, along with the deep thought that you apply to each case, have been remarked upon and will stand you in good stead for your new role. Your skill in the courtroom is only matched by your talent as a video editor, which perhaps in combination with your love of 90s Swedish pop, gives some subliminal insight into some unrealised ambition perhaps on your behalf. As some may remember, there was a brief time in our lives that was interrupted by a pandemic. And in an effort to bring humour to an otherwise dreary situation, Your Honour convened a work of leading criminal lawyers to create a lip-sync video to the Wilson Phillips classic, Hold On. I can happily report that the video has received 9,158 views and 70 thumbs up on YouTube. Your Honours, can all of you continue your remarkable legacy of public service. The Solicitors of Queensland reiterate our appreciation and thanks. May it please.
Thank you, Mr. Fogarty. Magistrate Schofield.
Thank you, Chief Magistrate. Thank you to the Honourable Attorney-General, Mr O'Brien and Ms Fogarty for your kind words. Thank you to the members of the Judiciary, members of the Bar, legal practitioners and other guests for attending today. Thank you also to my colleagues and friends for the multitude of emails, phone calls and text messages over the last 2 weeks. Having acted as a magistrate for a short period, I've been given a glimpse into the enormity of the role. Your expressions of congratulations, support and other words have meant the world to me and have given me some confidence as I embark on what I expect will be the greatest challenge of my career thus far. I wish to congratulate my fellow appointees, Magistrates Lodziak, Smith, Walker, O'Neill and Shillito for their well-deserved appointments. My journey to be sitting here began one Thursday evening at a very low-grade football training session. I zigged when I should have zagged and my body went right and my kneecap went left. I was discharged late that evening from hospital and being unavailable for my usual Thursday night, early Friday morning social activities, I found myself at university on a Friday morning at the ungodly hour of 8:30 a.m. With nothing better to do, I wandered into a careers presentation about Legal Aid Queensland. The presenter was a fellow by the name of David Law. Prior to this day, I had not really turned my mind to what lay ahead career-wise. Like many of you, I had studied law because I did not like maths. Listening to David speak about being a lawyer at Legal Aid really struck a chord. He spoke about a kind of role I hadn't previously considered as an option, a role helping people who otherwise would be left to fend for themselves. It also paid heaps more than an article clerkship, and I was hooked. By the end of the day, I'd submitted my application. I was lucky enough to get an interview, and much to my surprise, a few months later, I was offered a role in the graduate recruit team. I'm sure Mr. Law many times questioned his judgment over those early years, but I will forever be grateful to him for taking a gamble and giving me the opportunity. At Legal Aid, I was able to observe and learn from some of the great lawyers of our state, many of whom still work there. I was able to brief amazing counsel such as Rob East, my now fellow magistrate John McGuinness, Laura Rees, Simon Lewis, Peter Richards, Jeff Hunter KC and Justice Ryan, just to name a few. All were very generous with their time and knowledge. I was able to observe their brilliant advocacy and tactical genius and learn from their pragmatism and common sense. Importantly, I learned, particularly by observing Justice Ryan at work, that patience and empathy, within reason, even in the most trying of circumstances, were not traits inconsistent with being a good lawyer. They were, in fact, traits essential to being a good lawyer. Later, I had the privilege of being involved in training lawyers, many of whom are now well on their way to distinguished careers. I celebrate their continued success, and I look forward to taking credit for their many future achievements. My most recent position at Legal Aid Queensland was managing the Brisbane Magistrates Court practice. The staff who have passed through that team will always hold a special place in my heart. Their role is a difficult and often thankless one, and I wish to take this opportunity to publicly commend them, and indeed all lawyers and support staff who provide duty lawyer services. I especially thank my immediate line managers when I was in that role at Legal Aid, Penny Williams, Laura Rouse and Caroline Robertson, for their hard work, support and guidance over the years. I wish to thank Kylie Bell, who has moved into a new role now, but was the criminal practice manager at Legal Aid for many years. Kylie was, and still is, an amazing source of support and criminal law knowledge. I would also like to acknowledge Acting Magistrate Rhianna Lee, who, like Kylie Bell, has been a continued support for me over recent years and lately has provided a reciprocal counselling service for me as we navigate the challenges and stresses of our new roles. I've been overwhelmed with the support and guidance offered by my fellow magistrates. I especially wish to thank Chief Magistrate and Deputy Chief Magistrates for the way they have welcomed me to the new role and, along with the other magistrates and court staff, provided us with such comprehensive training that we've been undertaking. To my mum and dad, it's rare that you get the opportunity to publicly thank your parents for all they've done for you, at least while they're still around to hear it. Without the support, sacrifice, and on occasion stubborn insistence of my mother and father, I wouldn't have even finished school, I don't think, let alone gone to university. I'm very grateful for all that you've given me and my siblings. I also wish to thank my parents-in-law, who I understand are linking in today, for welcoming me into their family and for all the support they have provided my wife and I over the years. To my gorgeous, long-suffering wife, all my good attributes, I think, are a reflection of you, and all of the bad ones are things you're not still working on. To our children, we're so very proud of you. I'm very thankful you're willing to make the sacrifice of giving up a day of school to attend. Finally, once again, thank you, Madam Attorney General, for placing your trust in me. It's truly humbling, and I look forward to getting stuck into my new role, serving the community of Mount Isa and the surrounding districts. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Magistrate. Pardon me. I would start by joining in acknowledging the traditional custodians of lands on which we're meeting. Thank you, distinguished guests, for being here, who for brevity I won't repeat. Thank you, Attorney, for the faith you've shown in me with this appointment. It's an honour and a privilege, and that's something I will not be losing sight of. Thank you, everyone at the bar table, for your very kind words today. To my fellow new appointees, my warm congratulations to each of you on your very well-deserved appointments. It's a pleasure to be appointed amongst such company. I'd also like to thank my new colleagues, the magistrates of Queensland. A number have reached out with very kind words on the announcement of all of these new appointments. Many more have been extremely generous with their time, guidance and offers of assistance since then. As you've heard, I did indeed grow up and complete my law studies in Tasmania. Thank you. Pardon me. After graduating, I went to the Northern Territory, pursuing a girl I was with at the time, and I found a job with the North Australian Aboriginal Justice Agency in Katherine. The relationship swiftly did not work out. However, happily the job did, and it's an experience I continue to commend to all young practitioners living and working remotely and the opportunities it presents. From the Northern Territory, on the advice of the local magistrate, I moved to Queensland, chasing advocacy experience and prosecuting, as you've heard. Before long, however, I felt an urge to realign to criminal defence work, and from a couple of brief conversations with His Honour Magistrate Hackett in his then role with ATSLs, I was invited down to meet Greg Shadbolt, the Principal Legal Officer, for what was described as a fireside chat, which it became apparent was something of a formal interview. Happily, I didn't seemingly fluff it too badly, as I was starting there soon afterwards in February of 2010. As an aside, 2010 was a rather significant year for me, as a few months later I was invited to a show at the Powerhouse on what my wife Jasmine vehemently asserts was not a date. Naturally, I accept this proposition, but it certainly marked the start of one of the most important things in my life ever since. From my time at ATSLs, there are too many people to name individually, so I've restricted it to the following. To Greg and to Shane Duffy, the CEO, thank you so much for the faith that you showed in me, for the opportunities that my time with ATSLs provided to advocate for ATSLs and, of course, for your clients. To Magistrate Hackett, thank you for your mentorship that you provided to me both during our time at ATSLs together and since. To Andrew Fleming, for your friendship and fierce loyalty throughout my time there, I'm very grateful. To Kate Power, who has been unable to join us today due to a small child being very unwell, unfortunately. She was and remains a confidant and a friend. She supported me and the team there with dedication for a very long time, so much so that she even curtailed her recent maternity leave to return to the office on my departure. The team are lucky to have you, as was I. There are many others in the profession who have been friends, supporters and fellow travellers over my professional life. I'll briefly mention a couple. To Hannah Phillips and the team at the Tasmanian Aboriginal Legal Service, who I know are joining us remotely. As you've heard, in 2021, my family and I relocated back to Tasmania for a period, and I took up a role with TALS. It was very special for me to be able to spend some time close to my family there and to get to work with an organisation full of such caring and dedicated people whilst I did so. There have been a number of council that I've been privileged to work with in my time with ATSLs and TALS. I will mention just one. With his invitation to a game of chess over a beer one day, Mr. Jerry Elmore also became a personal friend. I thank you for your enduring professional and personal support. Finally, and accordingly not in order of priority, but to my family, Mum and Dad, who are watching this from Tasmania, my memories of growing up around you was of always having a calm and a welcoming place to come home to. With the perspective of being a parent now myself, I'm sure it may not have always felt that way to you. Thank you for the example that you set of kindness and respect for everyone. It's something I have and will continue to call upon in this new role and throughout my life. To my sisters, Sophia and Emma, Sophia, who has wonderfully been able to make it up here today, thank you so much for coming. It's very special to be able to share the moment with you. Thank you for being there whenever I have needed you. To Richard and Cora, my parents-in-law, happily here today as well. And as well as to my wife Jasmine's siblings and their family, thank you for your generosity and care for us as our families have grown up together. Finally, to Jasmine and our two boys, this big step will be inevitably something of an adventure and a challenge for all of us, as we have discussed. Thank you for keeping me grounded. Thank you for tolerating my bad days and being instrumental to my best days. I'm so thankful to share this and all our moments together. I love you very much.
Thank you. Magistrate Walker.
Thank you, Judge Pressington. Distinguished guests, colleagues, family and friends, thank you all for attending today. Attorney General, thank you for this incredible honour. To be appointed to Cairns, the place that I've practiced for the past 13 years and call home, is a dream come true, something I think I said to you on that phone call 2.5 weeks ago. I feel truly blessed to be given this privilege. Thank you everyone at the bar table for your kind words. I offer my congratulations to my new fellow magistrates. Having the 5 of you, particularly 2 of my LAQ colleagues, along for the wild ride that has been the past 2 weeks has been amazing. It's also meant that I haven't been the only one getting lost trying to find my way around level 9. Thank you to all of the magistrates who have reached out either by email or in person since my appointment, offering your congratulations. I've been so grateful for the warm welcome I've received. Special thanks to those magistrates who have allowed us to sit alongside them in courts for the past 2 weeks, who have imparted their wisdom and who have spent time explaining to us the arduous task of endorsing a file correctly. To the Cairns magistrates, I look forward to joining you all next week. Special thanks to Magistrate Pearson for your support, encouragement and friendship, and thank you for arranging the live stream in Cairns for today's ceremony. I saw the RSVP list, so I can say this. It's truly humbling to know how many of my colleagues are there. I started my legal career as a law clerk at Timpany Walton in Timaru, New Zealand in 2007. I extend my thanks to Tony Shaw and Charlotte Clifford in particular for the incredible start they gave me to my legal career. In 2011, I moved to Cairns and started work at LAQ as the drug court lawyer. I have Penny Williams to thank for taking a chance on a Kiwi lawyer. Perhaps it helped she could actually understand my accent. The next 2 years remain some of the favourites of my career. Working in a therapeutic court like the drug court and witnessing people turn their life around was incredibly rewarding. I was lucky enough to work closely with an amazing team, in particular Magistrate Spencer, whom I now call a dear friend. I think my introducing him to Pinky Bars made up for him having to try and keep a straight face when I had a very strong Kiwi accent and a client employed as a deckhand. From 2013, I practiced in general crime, where I was privileged to work with some incredible legal minds. I would like to thank all of the barristers I've worked with over the years. Each one of you taught me so much and made me a better lawyer. Judge Trevino KC was the first barrister I briefed. His support and guidance over the years helped me develop as a practitioner. He was never too busy for me, and I'm so grateful to him for always answering my calls or dusting off the old law books when I had a particularly curly matter I needed his help with. Magistrate Dalton once referred to me as the Miss Jane to his Mr. Squiggle, probably a fair comparison, but we had a working relationship that I'm proud of, and because of it, we achieved some incredible results for our clients. I thank him for always firing the bullets, and I'm so looking forward to working alongside him in this new role. I'm proud to be appointed from the solicitors branch of the profession, and to the solicitors I've learned from and been supported by over the past 16 years, I thank you. I hope my appointment to the bench as a regional solicitor shows those who are new to the profession that you can advance if you choose a career in the regions. Working in regional Queensland is a unique experience, especially in far north Queensland, where we're privileged to circuit to remote communities and the outer islands of the Torres Straits. Cairns is also an incredibly collegiate legal profession, and I've always been able to rely on my colleagues from both sides of the bar table for advice and guidance. From those foundations as colleagues, many of them I now call good friends. To my Legal Aid Queensland colleagues, in particular the Cairns office, you are all such incredible people. This past year especially, you've shown not only your resilience, but your enduring commitment to ensuring the vulnerable members of our community receive access to justice. I would especially like to mention my LSOs over the years, Claire, Megan, Trudy and Dion. Thank you for being the best humans. You are all such hard workers, and I wouldn't have been able to do my job the way I did without you. Cairns crew, I was proud to lead you, and I will miss you all so much. Thank you also to Peter Delaboltis for putting your trust in me to lead the Cairns office and for always giving me your complete support. To my friends, thank you all. I truly am blessed with the best, and each one of you knows how much I appreciate you. I'm so fortunate to be surrounded by an army of supportive friends. Thank you especially to those who have travelled to be here today, and to all of you who couldn't make it in person but are watching the live stream. Each one of you has helped me get here through your belief in me and my ability to take on this new role. Finally, to my family, thank you for everything. You've never doubted my abilities, and your endless encouragement and support means the world to me. I hope I can do you proud in this next chapter of my career.
Thank you, Magistrate Walker.
Thank you, Judge Brasington. Distinguished guests, I've heard my career described today as diverse and expansive. It's true. I've always followed the work I love, and my main interest has been to improve the lives of vulnerable women and children. Towards the end of my law degree, I applied for a job as a law clerk in the commercial litigation team of a Queen Street firm of solicitors. There were 2 positions and 2 applicants, 1 male and 1 female, and perhaps unsurprisingly, despite my aspirations, I was given the job in the family law team. My initial disappointment quickly gave way for 3 reasons. First, I got to work with Susan Purdon, now Justice Purdon Sully of the National and Supreme Court of Papua New Guinea, who's been a mentor throughout my career and a wonderful work colleague on more than one occasion. Secondly, I met the lawyer friends who continue to inspire and motivate me. Many of them are here, and I'll thank you all privately. I also met a wonderful group of colleagues, some of whom are here today. And thirdly, as a book lover, I was drawn to the human stories inherent in the practice of family law. My job required me to take the first statement from clients, most of whom were a decade or more older than me. As they disclosed deeply personal stories about their early lives, I soon realised that many of them had experienced discrimination, trauma, and adversity. Domestic and family violence wasn't something I had experienced or that I understood, so I needed to educate myself. There was a Peace and Good Behaviour Act, but no Domestic Violence Act. The topic was considered private, and there was little published research, or at least Australian research, and there was no internet, making self-education more challenging than it would be now. This was in the early years of the Women's Legal Service, and Zoe Rathis was the first solicitor and coordinator of the service. Zoe has devoted her career to educating lawyers and law students, explaining the dynamics of domestic violence and the way adverse childhood experiences can have lifelong and even intergenerational consequences. I vividly recall the first lecture she gave to the Family Law Practitioners Association and the powerful impact it had on me, as I finally had the words to describe some of the experiences that had been disclosed to me. My interest in the intersections between social science and the law has continued throughout my career. This knowledge has provided me with many opportunities in tribunals and the state and Commonwealth courts, and it's enhanced my understanding of the difficulties many individuals experience in navigating Australia's complex and fragmented legal system. The prevalence and impact of domestic and family violence touches lives across many legal practice areas, no matter the hearing type: crime, family law, inquests, child protection, youth justice, child support, migration or bankruptcy. Domestic and family violence is often at the heart of the problems that pulls individuals into the justice system. I went from DJAG to the Federal Court to set up a tribunal, but soon afterwards, Louise Anderson, now the CEO of Courts Victoria, asked me to develop a risk screening process for use in the family courts. Everything I'd learnt to that time was channelled into the development of the Lighthouse Project, which, as you know now, is the risk screening triage process and a high risk list now used in the Federal Circuit and Family Court of Australia to ensure that cases are prioritised and resources based on the level of risk. Conceptualising and developing that process required a synthesis of law, social science and litigation systems navigation. Until Lighthouse, no court had used risk screening with a digital screen or on that scale, and its success has prompted courts in Singapore, New Zealand, Japan, the United Kingdom and Canada to look to the Lighthouse model for adaptation in their courts. Thank you, Louise, for planting the seed, and to the Honourable William Alstergren, Chief Justice of the Federal and Family Court of Australia, for keeping the flame alive. My sisters, who are my great supporters and friends, are here today, and I thank them for the friendship and support they've offered me throughout my life. I also want to acknowledge my daughter, whose existence brings light and joy to my life daily and gives it purpose and meaning. You can't choose your family, but being part of mine is my great good fortune. The day would be incomplete without acknowledging the absence of my friend, confidant and mentor, my husband, Graham Lee. Graham was an excellent magistrate. I say this not out of loyalty, but having had the opportunity to observe Graham presiding in court when I was developing domestic violence education for magistrates, I got to see his work firsthand. Being observed must have been extremely uncomfortable for Graham, but he tolerated it with a mix of good humour and scientific method, meaning that we enjoyed much analysis and debate about the law and its application, usually over dinner and the occasional drink. Graham loved nothing better than a nutty legal problem and writing a comprehensive judgment. He was able to apply rigorous legal analysis while retaining a sense of humour and compassion. I miss those debates. Today's a bittersweet day for me. I miss Graham every day, but especially today. I thank the attorney for the opportunity to embark on the next phase of my career. I thank the colleagues who've been so generous to me to date, the magistrates who've offered their resources and the opportunity to see their work. I embark on my new career with excitement and a commitment to ongoing learning and to the administration of justice. Thank you.
Thank you, Magistrate O'Neill. Magistrate Smith.
Thank you to everyone for being here today. I adopt all the thanks previously given by my fellow newly appointed magistrates, to the Attorney General, Chief Magistrate, all the judicial officers and other distinguished guests and family and friends. I've spent the last 18 years working on the Sunshine Coast, so I hope that some of those people have tuned in, and thank you if you have. Also, thank you to my friends and family, particularly my mum and dad. I hope they've managed to link in and watch the proceedings from interstate. I'm extremely honoured and humbled to be appointed to this position. I genuinely love the Magistrates Court jurisdiction. I've spent a lot of time in it, particularly over the past 10 years as a lawyer and more recently as an acting magistrate. I enjoy its pace, the variety of matters and law involved, and that element of surprise that each day has the potential to bring. I've spent the better part of the past 25 years in criminal law, initially in prosecution and then in defence. And as so many of you in the room know, that's significant exposure to often difficult and disturbing events and material. But balanced against that, it's an area of law that no matter whether in prosecution or defence or on the bench, you have the potential to make a difference, and that's really rewarding. I've been very fortunate in my life in terms of love, support, opportunities, and through this appointment in particular, it is an opportunity to make a difference and give back. My parents. I suspect if I could put you all in the TARDIS and take you back to when I was a kid, you'd understand just how fortunate it was that I had the parents that I did. I always felt loved and supported, and I never felt that they placed limits or expectations on what I could or couldn't achieve. I was quite the rat bag as a kid. Whenever parent-teacher night or my report was arriving, I would be thinking, this is not going to be great. And I'd have to grab some scissors and wander down the street to the house with the perfect garden of roses and cut a few to give to my mum to soften the blow. By the end of year 11, I was adamant that I was going to leave school and become a mechanic. I told my parents that the only way I would stay in school was if they'd found me a school without rules. Who knew that a school without rules did actually exist and that my parents would find it? Now, thank goodness for that school and my parents, because I would have been a really awful mechanic. And without breaking into an Alanis Morissette song, it really is ironic that the school with no rules ultimately led me to a career dominated by the application of rules. Thank you to my mum and dad for everything you've done and given me in my life. To journalism. When I finished school, I really had no idea what I wanted to do except ski. A friend of mine was applying to a university that apparently offered the best journalism course in Australia at that time. Now, as a 17-year-old, I was less impressed with the university accolades than the fact that the university was located 3 hours out of Sydney in a university town with no adult or parental supervision. My friend and I both applied. My friend did not get in, but I did. I packed the car and headed to university. It was during my journalism degree that I got my first taste of law. The law subjects were always my favourite. Skiing. Now, I should bring up skiing at this point because I've been skiing since I was about 3, and it's always been a huge part of my life. During my late teens and 20s, I'd spend every spare winter weekend and holiday skiing. In 1993, I was employed as an instructor in Thredbo in New South Wales, and from there I managed to get a job in the northern winter in Austria that year. That was also the year that I graduated my journalism degree. So I packed my bags, I hopped on a plane and headed to Austria. I had no mobile phone, no internet access, and my German was limited to the phrase, Entschuldigen Sie bitte, wo ist die Bibliothek? Now that actually means, I think, excuse me please, where is the library? It's the only thing I learnt in Year 9 German, and it was not going to get me very far in an Austrian ski town. Needless to say, it was the start of a few years of living in a perpetual winter. And it was during the northern winter of 1996, whilst having a wow of a time in Canada, that my boyfriend at the time started talking about leaving ski instructing behind and settling down in the city of Wollongong, which is about an hour south of Sydney. That did not sound like a great idea to me. I had increasingly been thinking about law, and particularly criminal law, and it was the start of 1997 that I commenced my Bachelor of Laws degree. Needless to say, it wasn't in Wollongong. Skiing is what led me to my best friend, Kate. We met in a ski instructor hiring clinic 30 years ago. We've been friends ever since. We both left ski instructing about the same time, myself following the law and she as a paramedic. We've travelled the world skiing together, supported each other through a lot of life's ups and downs, and most importantly, laughed a lot. I love her. I'm grateful for her in my life. The DPP. During the last year of my law degree, which was in 1999, I started working as a clerk in the DPP in Parramatta. I then spent the next 6 or so years working as a solicitor advocate in Sydney and Parramatta, which had me work on some high-profile matters at that particular time. I was fortunate to observe and learn from a range of great advocates and lawyers, and many of those people are now judicial officers. I also made some truly great friendships there, and in particular, my very good friend, Georgia Turner, who is now District Court Judge. She was a Level 2 lawyer at the DPP when I started as a clerk and was one of the first people I was introduced to. We got along immediately, although she did make me cull her files. Over the next years, she's always been there to support me in everything. She was there when I was admitted to the New South Wales Supreme Court in 2000. She was the first person that took me to the Sunshine Coast. My first child and her child were born within 2 weeks of each other, and she's always been there cheering me on in my career and my life. I'm very grateful for our long friendship and her support. Sunshine Coast. In 2004, when I was visiting a friend that lived on the Sunshine Coast, I met my husband, Justin. So by 2005, I'd moved to Brisbane to work at the Crime and Misconduct Commission. And in fact, shortly after that, I met Magistrate Sinclair when he too started work at the CMC. He must feel as though he can't escape me, because when he left the CMC, he returned to the bar in Maroochydore, and I coincidentally followed not long afterwards to work as a Crown there. He was later my junior master when I went to the bar, and now here I am again on his coattails. Since the day I met him, he's always been very generous with his time and great with his advice. In 2007, I got married and moved to the Sunshine Coast and worked as a Crown prosecutor running jury trials in Maroochydore, Gympie and Bundaberg. In fact, the first jury trial I ran in Queensland was against Deputy Chief Magistrate Courtney when he was Defence Counsel. My complainant went rogue in evidence at that trial and it bombed. I like to think I didn't have a role in that, but on reflection, I suspect I probably did. My time as a Crown in Maroochydore was relatively short-lived because in February 2008, I had my first child. I spent the next 10 months pushing a pram around the pavement, loving being with my girl, but missing the courtroom. In 2009, I did the bar practice course, and I remember at the end of one day running to catch a train back from Brisbane to the Sunshine Coast, and as I jumped on the train, I felt a little faint. A man stood up and asked me if I wanted to sit down, and needless to say, my beautiful boy was born a few months later. In 2011, my youngest daughter was born, and it was becoming quite apparent that having two parents working full-time and 3 children under the age of 4 was quite the handful. Fortunately, though, a great opportunity and location became available in Maroochydore for me to operate and build my own law firm. And so Justin and I made the decision that he would stop working and look after the children full-time, and I would leave the bar and return to being a solicitor advocate and build a criminal defence firm. And that is what I did until today. So that brings me to everyone in Maroochydore particularly, so the barristers, solicitors, prosecutors, judicial officers, court staff. Working in a region is really rewarding. There's so many smart, dedicated people, so many battles, so many stories, so many characters, and despite the often difficult and exhausting work, there's always people looking out for you, and there were always many, many laughs. So thank you to everyone for that. I also want to thank Her Honour Chief Magistrate Brassington, the Deputy Chief Magistrates, all the other magistrates and staff in the Chief Magistrate's office for always being so helpful and generous with their time and assistance over the past 2 weeks and also over the past 10 months whilst I've been an acting magistrate. I also want to congratulate the other 5 newly appointed magistrates and wish them all the best in their future. And that finally leads me to thanking my 3 beautiful children and husband. Fortunately for my children and I, we do have Justin, who is kind and caring and ensures a level of normalcy in our lives. I love you, thank goodness for you. And my wonderful, funny, smart kids, you are my joy and light. I love you all so much. I hope that you know you are always my number one, no matter where I am or what I am doing. Again, thank you to the Honourable Attorney General for appointing me to this position, which I can assure will be undertaken with dedication and professionalism and in accordance with the affirmation I've given. I feel very honoured and privileged. Thank you.
Thank you, Magistrate Smith. Magistrate Lodziak.
Thank you, Chief Magistrate. I'd like to thank Magistrate Smith for raising the idea of a school without rules. I saw my daughter excitedly look to my wife. That should be a fun ride home later. I join in the acknowledgements that have already been made, and I'm grateful for the kind words that have been said about us from the bar table. The last 2 weeks have been filled with many feelings and emotions, but what has bubbled to the top is a great feeling of gratitude. Thank you to everyone who's very kindly reached out to me in the last couple of weeks. I've genuinely appreciated every text, email and phone call. A huge thank you to the Chief Magistrate, the Deputy Chief Magistrates, other magistrates and the staff of the Office of the Chief Magistrate who have warmly welcomed us new appointees and reached out to offer continuing support. And I congratulate my fellow new magistrates. I'm excited to be reunited with some former legal aiders and other former practitioners I used to appear with and against. For example, Magistrate Power moved my admission back in 2006. To have her present at my swearing in last Monday was very special. I've been looking back at how I came to be here. Foremost, I must thank my parents. They fell pregnant with me in what was then a communist Poland. It was not a place in which they wanted to bring up a child. They left almost everything they knew and fled their home country. Their courage and sacrifices were the first step in my journey here. They are amazing parents, and I'm thrilled they're here today. The next 12 years included a return to Poland, though by now post the Solidarity movement, where my sister and I attended school for a couple of years. The next critical factor in my journey after returning to Australia involves acknowledging two of my high school teachers, Janet Jędroszkowiak, but because I was the only one who could pronounce her Polish surname, we called her Mrs. Jed. And then Trish Dwyer. I was a proud maths and science nerd. I was not meant to be a lawyer. I struggled with English. I owe those two teachers for giving me the courage and confidence to ultimately take a path different to the one my grades suggested I should take. I struggled to find a place at university. I started a degree in pharmacy and then tried a few others until I was one day dissecting a frog in a biology prac and had had enough. I left the class and called a good friend who was studying law. I asked him what he thought about me studying law, and he uttered these inspiring words that have always stayed with me. "Oh yeah, you'd be all right at it." The rest is history. I was ultimately hired by Legal Aid Queensland, also thanks to Mr. Law. Over 19 years, I worked with amazing people, first as a solicitor, later as a barrister, with my final years spent in management roles. I'm going to make many of the criminal lawyers in this room jealous by acknowledging the wonderful mentors I had. Former Acting Judge of the District Court, Robert East QC, former Public Defenders, Chief Judge Devereaux SC, Judge Allen KC, and Judge Briscalo KC. I got to work with Justice Ryan and Judges Moynihan KC and Heaton KC. And I'm also indebted to Acting Magistrate Shepherd, Ms. Catherine Morgan, and Deputy Public Defender Joe Briggs. The Public Defender Chambers is comprised of dedicated and talented barristers, and to have had the opportunity to have led that group earlier this year was undoubtedly the greatest honour I was given at Legal Aid Queensland. Thank you to Ms. Nikki Davies and to Mr. Peter Delaboltis for their support, and thank you to Ms. Kerry Bickle for the many times you answered my calls for help. Finally, the public defender job was one I would not have been able to do without the invaluable assistance of the Principal Chambers Clerk, Jessica Ben Hoof. It was not easy saying goodbye to LAQ. I'm thrilled that two great former LAQers, Magistrates Schofield and Walker, are on this ride, or joyride, with me. I loved being a barrister, and I'd like to acknowledge the kindness many barristers at the private bar showed me. I'd like to acknowledge Justice Davis's presence here today. His advice and guidance to me as a baby barrister prior to His Honour's appointment meant the world to me. I acknowledge the professional and courteous, respectful and helpful way in which so many prosecutors at the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions engaged with me over the years. Thank you to the Director, Mr. Fuller KC, for your enthusiasm for keeping an open dialogue with Legal Aid. Thank you to the solicitors who briefed me for their care, skill, positivity and good humour. I must mention two more lawyers. Laura Reese and Kylie Bell are not only two of the most dedicated and hardworking lawyers I know, but they are genuine, decent and thoughtful, and I respect them immensely. I'm grateful for your friendship and countless times you've offered me wise and considered advice. I thank my friends outside of the legal world who keep me sane, especially Emma, James, Wayne, Anthony, John and Daniel. I always have the support of my sister Agatha and my brother-in-law Matt, who are both here today with their wonderful children, Emily and Jack. My wife's family has been a tremendous source of support and love for us too, and I'd like to acknowledge my parents-in-law who are here. Sorry, this is the worst bit. Finally, the Lodzies. I'm so proud of my children. The joy you two bring me and your mum cannot be topped by anything else. Getting to experience the world through your eyes and hearing your perspectives on things adults often take for granted is such a gift. Lily, thank you for choosing my tie today. And Harry, thank you for capitulating and agreeing to wear a long sleeve shirt. I most certainly would not be here without my wife, Holly. Perhaps I should not admit this, but I'm not an ambitious person professionally. Of course, many would comment on how ambitious my plans to date Holly were. That's a different story. The truth is that all I ever really wanted to do was to be the best I could be at my job. It has only been with the encouragement and sometimes the loving bullying of me by others that I've sought promotions throughout my career. Holly has consistently been that voice, telling me to take that next step, to become a barrister, to apply for promotions, and most recently that she would do whatever had to be done to make sure I could go to Cairns to be a magistrate. I don't know what I've done to deserve it. I'm grateful for the love and support you give me every day. Madam Attorney, I'll do my best in this job too. Thank you for trusting me with this position. Answering that call from you a fortnight ago is not a memory I'm never going to forget. Thank you, Chief Magistrate.
Thank you, Magistrate Lodziak. And thank you, everyone, for joining us today. I direct that the proceedings be transcribed and invite everyone to meet us and the new magistrate on level 9 for afternoon tea. We will adjourn the court now.
Right. Well done.
You are the only participant in the conference.